is just a great team. I've been dying to work with Freddy again. I'm just agreeing to whatever this is, and this is going to be amazing, and it's been fantastic.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Cryptoys Chronicles, and we're switching it up a little bit today. We got some awesome members of the art team. You all know Freddy, who we've interviewed before. Freddy, what's up?
How you guys doing?
What's up? Freddy's our Chief Creative Officer, one of the co-founders of Cryptoys. We got Matt, who is our art director. What's up, Matt?
Yo.
And then we got Harry, who is our principal 3D generalist. What's up, Harry? How's it going?
What's up, guys?
What's up? All right, so we're gonna have some fun today. We're gonna show some sneak peeks into, because everyone's always curious, what's going on behind the scenes. And so everyone has a little something that they want to show off, kind of what they've been working on. Just a little something. A lot of things are top secret, but what we can show, each person's gonna kind of go into what they've been working on and what the process behind it is. But first, I wanted to kind of get to know Matt and Harry a little bit because they're new to the show. So I'll start with Matt. Matt is our art director. Matt, I know you've known Freddy for a long time. How did you get involved with the Cryptoys team?
Maybe we should start with Harry on this one. Harry gave me a phone call and he said, I think you're going to get a phone call from Freddy. He's got some interesting stuff he's working on. You might want to know more about this or hear about this. And I'm like, I'm in. He's like, do you want to know what it is? I'm like, you said Freddy, and I'm in. He's like, well, I've been working there too. I'm like, I'm in. Not even a question. He's like, you want to know what the job is or what they're doing? I'm like, nope. And I've been interviewing with a couple other companies that were fairly high profile, and I just literally, Freddy called me next, and about 3 minutes later, we were done with the call. I made some very mean phone calls back to other companies saying, no, thank you. Thanks a lot for trying, but this isn't going to work. And they're like, what are you doing? I'm like, NFTs. I don't know what that is, but a friend of mine says, let's do it. And I said, yes. And I'm doing this now. So that was no real idea what NFTs were or about Cryptoys or really what it was. It was just Harry and Freddy are on this team. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not passing up that opportunity. Freddie and Harry and I worked at an animation studio years ago. And Harry and I worked several different places together since then. I'm like, no, this is just a great team. I've been dying to work with Freddy again. I'm just agreeing to whatever this is. And this is going to be amazing. And it's been fantastic.
No, that's awesome. I feel like I didn't even know that either. That's so funny.
It's funny. That call went like that too. The 3 minutes after when I called him, it's like, so we have this whole concept. And it's like, yes. And I'm like, do you want me to go through the pitch here? It's like, no. We're good. Let's do it. It sounds crazy. I want it.
That's damn, Freddy. You're good at convincing that in 3 minutes. That's it. Jeez. Freddy must be popular. Harry. Well, then, Harry, what's your backstory? How did you get involved?
It's almost the same story, just about a week earlier. So Freddie, Matt, and I worked together, obviously, a million years ago. And then Matt and I continued to work together pretty much on and off for the last 20 years. When Freddie got in touch with me about this, it was a really interesting idea. And honestly, working with Freddie again was really cool. We had a great time when we worked together before. We actually went to the same animation school a million plus 1 years ago. So, it's kind of like coming home again. And once we started working together, it was, we needed someone to do art direction. I knew Matt was available. Freddie was like, are you sure you'd be interested? I'm like, I don't know. I'll call him. Obviously that went quick. But it's been great. It's been really fun hanging out with these guys again. And obviously they're super talented. So it's not like, if there's any punishment here, it's just pretty much every day we go in, we mess around, and come out with cool art. So,
that's awesome. That's awesome. I'm like dying over here, coughing. Sorry about that. But so let's get into it now. This is the most exciting part. I'm actually really excited to see what you all have to share. Who wants to go first?
Do you want pictures or stories, or we can do pictures? We can do pictures. I don't know. Who wants to go first? Rochambeau for it.
Rock, paper, scissors.
Right.
Yeah, whatever you were doing, that did not look like Rochambeau at all.
That's a Venezuelan Rochambeau.
Well, let's start with Freddy because he's the most talkative right now. So we gotta show what you're doing.
This is a cool little biplane that I designed for one of our first experiences that everybody's gonna get a chance to see and play with. And this is a little bit out of context, which is on purpose, so that we don't want to give everything away before we do our release. But I can tell you that it's a real-time object. And this is kind of what we have. So this is kind of like the whimsical look and approach that we're taking to a lot of the development, visual development for Cryptoys.
That is so awesome. So yeah, there's no context. We're like, well, what is this plane going to be used for? And we're not going to reveal that. But I did want to kind of get into, the process for those people like me who it's like, we literally know nothing about like creating this kind of stuff. What goes into the process of this kind of like from start to finish?
So from start to finish, at least my process, because everybody seems to have a little bit of a different process when it comes to art. I start with a super rough sketch just to get a general idea or make sure that what I see in my brain actually translates to physical space and makes sense. So I start with the rough sketch, and then I start modeling, which I can show you a little bit of it here on what that looks like. So basically, everything's modeled with polygons. It's almost like if you were to digitize a clay sculpture, where you put shapes and curves. The more curves you have, the more lines and dots you have to add to be able to give the geometry shape. So that's why you see everything looks gridded out. And that's basically where there's a curve, there's a little bit more geometry where then you can start shaping, curving, and making the shape that you want. Then the next step to that is to turn this guy into a flat version of it so that we can then paint textures. And that's how you see the coloration that it has on top of it. So basically, this is the same 3D object. Now it's flat, and now we can go into Photoshop and then paint on it just like a canvas. And that's what you see. And then lastly, then we do surfacing, which is what makes it so it looks shiny, or the wheels don't look as shiny. And then we do lighting, and that kind of is what completes the package to give it the look that you see.
Whoa, that's crazy. I didn't realize that. You take out, okay, the part that was really interesting to me was the fact that you have to break them up and then you texturize those pieces and then you add the pieces on. Is that how it works?
I'm sorry, you're gonna have to go again because my computer froze when I changed the
oh, no problem.
the screen. I'm like, what's going on?
So those pieces that you were talking about, you lay them flat, and it's like those 2D pieces. Are you adding the texture and color onto those pieces and then adding that onto the plane?
Yes. So basically, all this flat section that we see here, that goes into Photoshop, and then we do the flat textures on top of it, and then we apply that flat texture onto the 3D object. Basically, wraps around there, just like you would do a wrap job on a car, just to make it look cooler or whatever. Basically, that's what we're doing here too with our 3D objects. Nice.
How did you know what colors to pick for that?
Over time, you kind of learn what works and what doesn't. The school that Harry and I went to, it was a very technical-driven school, so they teach you how to use this 3D software to generate the shapes and whatnot. When it comes to like the actual art theories of colors and things like that, that I've learned over time, and trial and error over 16 years of doing jobs and what works and what doesn't. So we pick these colors too, so that they jump out against the background that they're going to be against. And this is kind of like the hero of the show for that particular section that we're making.
That's awesome. Yeah, I definitely know what you're talking about, but we can't reveal. That's super exciting. And for a little context, how long, I know you're working on a million different things, but it's like, how long would you say this took from like start to finish to actually finish the plane? Because I know you had created like a different plane, right? And you were like, I don't know if this is gonna fit, and then you had to kind of redo it.
Yeah, no, we had a placeholder before, and there's actually a lot of resources that you find today to try and get basic art to get the idea out. But then we still needed to create something of our own. So that's something that I purchased of the site so that we can, get the idea of what is it that we wanted to do. Then I designed this guy, and this one took me maybe a couple of evenings just working on it in between the model and the textures.
Thank you for sharing that. And then I know you had something else you wanted to share as well, right?
Yes. So this image, and let me start here because we talked a little bit about that too with the planes. Like I started with a super rough sketch just to get a general idea of what I want to do. It's 3D takes a while to grab all those polygons and points individually, move them to get the shape that you want. So this is a way to very roughly just put something on paper that you're like, okay, yeah, this makes sense to me, and I can work on this. And then I move on to what we call blocking, which is on the 3D scene, just puts very simple 3D objects just to kind of shape the vision that you had, just to make sure that you can pick the right camera, the right lens, whether it's a wide angle or a telephoto, and then frame basically the shot that you want to do. And now when your brain agrees with this, then you can move on to doing the more complex shapes and textures and UVs and all the stuff that we kind of went through with the plane. And we end up with something, and I'm skipping a lot of steps, but we end up with something like this. And this is the final visual that we're using for the website in this case, which you guys will get to see soon.
Yeah, the website, new website. Excited for that. I love the colors on that. That's probably my favorite. I love colorful stuff. That's
Yes.
probably my favorite part about it. Is like, oh, the colors, so beautiful. Blue, purple, violet.
So we're trying to go for a very generic, not generic, but we're trying to hit a lot of likes when it comes to the content that we're creating, so that we can have different tastes in so many different things. Look at these images and be like, yes, we like this, we agree with this, we can relate to this. So that's kind of how we're approaching most of the design for Cryptoys.
Awesome. Wow, I love that. And thank you so much for sharing that, Freddy. I appreciate it. Both of those are really incredible. And it's so cool to see the breakdown. I'm sure people watching this are like, wow, that's awesome. I didn't realize all this stuff, that really has to go into it. Let's see if Matt would like to share what he's working on. Matt, do you want me to bring up your thing? Are you prepared?
So this is a scene that Freddy had created, and he has already kind of done some textures. He's made it really pretty, and I'm just obsessed with going back through it and just adding a few little finishing touches, kind of playing with the textures that Freddy has. Here he is, this airplane, and I'm looking for it here, paper plane, blop, and it's got this cool blue texture on it, which I like it because I like the idea of the paper plane and the idea that it's like homework. So I grab the texture and I go over to Photoshop, and then I created this. I knew I was going to do this. So I kind of created this rando texture palette I can pull up from hand-drawn bands to just some stuff from my sketchbook to other just rando homework stuff. And I just throw these layers on there, and I can manipulate them if I want. And then I just go through and just add to the texture and save it back out, and then we can go through. But there's so many things in this scene. Here's a comic book, and for that comic book, let's see if you can see it. Yeah, so it has that, and I was like, that's cool, but let's do something else with it. And here's the textures for that, and then so I'm reworking the comic book texture right now. So I had this idea of the Corgi like bursting through that I'd kind of borrowed from this other earlier comic. Let's see if I can find the layer. Boop, boop, boop. Like, yeah, I want like a Hulk bursting through kind of fun stuff. So I did this background panel, and then I brought it into After Effects, and I just kind of blew it up. Freddy's like, I don't like that picture, and I'm like, cool. And then I just don't worry about it. That's just the background. We'll get through this. It'll be okay. And then I blew it up in After Effects, and then I brought those frames back in as layers to layer on top. And then I start a lot of the stuff in the sketchbook, and I think you've shown these already. But
show us. Ooh.
Yeah, some sketches in the sketchbook, and I do with these little Japanese schoolwork pencils that are red and blue. Yeah, crazy. And then I take that and then I bring that art into Illustrator, because I don't know, if we want to make t-shirts or something later on, I don't know what size we're going to need. And so I do it as these stickers in Illustrator, and then I bring it back over into Photoshop, and I just kill myself, because that's a lot of work. But here we are.
Wait, so how do you bring it from you hand draw, and then what do? You have to scan it, and then it automatically like shows the digital version of it?
Oh God, yeah. So I take a picture with my phone, and I don't have my on-chain account on my phone. So I go to the image, and then I email it to myself on on-chain, and then I load it in. And then
so totally automatic, right? That's
totally automatic. Yeah.
Wait. The secret sauce to all of this right here is the Japanese pencil.
Yeah, show us the Japanese pencil now. What? Why the Japanese pencil? What is the secret behind those?
Oh, because it has blue on one side and red on the other. So if I'm doing a sketch, there's all sorts of garbage on here. My cat eats them. But if I'm doing a sketch, I'll start in one color, and then I'll do my final pass in the next color. So I can, between the blue and the red, I can see what's going on. So yeah, so if you look at these, I kind of go over once in one color and then again in the other color. That's just how that works. Yeah, because why would I use just one color if I can use two, especially on a pencil? So
why not three?
I'm just trying to imagine how that pencil.
Three different. It's like a three different thing. Oh my God, that's
like a throwing star. Yeah.
That's crazy how you blew that up though. Going back to this, okay, so what was your thought process behind that? How did you even think to what if we blew it up? It's like that's just such a creative. What is your thought process behind what are these different things that you're doing, and how do you think of them?
All right, so Harry and I were talking yesterday about a bunch of stuff while we're working, and my thought process going in, and I don't know how much I can give away of the world. The Cryptoys live on this world that's basically hand-me-down stuff from our world. So they get assets that are fully created, and they get assets that they need to create. And what would it be like if a Cryptoy had to build a airplane, or a Cryptoy had to build a car, or a Cryptoy had to build a house using what we've provided, from our garbage or from our houses or whatever. It's kind of like the Littles cartoon from the 80s. They have to kind of manufacture their world from our world, and what is that like? And so I think a lot about the shape of their hands, these little nubs. What kind of world are they going to create if they grab a hammer and start building stuff? And I try to translate that over into the art. If Cryptoys are making art about themselves and each other, what does that look like, and how does that work? And that's kind of my first goal, is how do they see themselves? And then from that, we kind of evolve into, well, this is how their culture is, this is how their world is. And we kind of build out from there. I don't know why I'm saying kind of 5 times in a row. That's exactly how I build out their world from there.
That makes sense, though. You get inside of their head and think about it from their perspective. These characters.
How would they do it if they had to do it? Because obviously they have to do it. They have to live in a world. How do they build that world? And so there we go.
That's really awesome.
As far as the other stuff, I just look at what do I think is cool. I spend a lot of time on Instagram. I look at a lot of comic book artists, a lot of fine artists, and I see what are they working on, what do they think is cool, and okay, how do I bring that world back into the Cryptoys world? Like I said, I saw this, and I was like, oh yeah, I want to do a comic book, and then I went online to Instagram. I'm trying to think of the artist's name right now. I think it's Chuck something. Chuck. I don't want to mess up the artist name. That's just
shout out to Chuck, whoever that is.
Chuck Patton. Chuck Patton, who does a really good. He's just this amazing illustrator from the '80s who did all of your heroes, Batman, Superman, whatever. Chuck kind of did them all. Now he's a director over at Netflix or some crazy thing. But I met him and I was talking to him. I'm like, I want to do some Chuck Patton style comic book art. So this was kind of my shout out to him and his style.
That's awesome. Wow, incredible. And thank you for giving us some sneak peeks. We've already seen some stuff that nobody has seen before, so it's really exciting. This show has already been a lot of little secret stuff, and then there's so much more, and we're barely even showing anything. It's kind of crazy to think about. Harry, Harry, what do you have to show? Would you like me to bring it up?
Yeah, sure. Bring it up. I'll pitch it a little bit because this is not new, actually. Everybody's seen this who's been on the website as it stands. This is actually kind of the process. This is what I see when I'm working on it, right? And this is the Rubik's Cube. I just thought I'd bring up this guy because it's a complicated little setup that we put together, but it's kind of fun. And when it's animated, there's so many moving parts. So it's kind of fun to see them all kind of working in concert. This thing's kind of like working with a little clock.
It's cool to see those lines outline it though, because sometimes you don't realize that in order to make something move, you really have to be strategic with every little thing. So before you jump, those lines, it's could you kind of describe what are those lines doing? Those are controlling certain parts of the Rubik cube?
Yeah. So those are control curves or handles, depending on who you ask. Basically, I don't touch the actual cube. I grab these controls and I manipulate those, right? And that's what I put keyframes on. And that way they do different jobs depending on what I need them to do. In the case of Rubik's Cube, it's kind of a weird one, but each of those rings will spin something on that axis. And I have scripts that let me reselect what I need to move and whatever. And then you'll see like crosses, there's rings around each of the cubes as well. I can move each of the cubes individually and then move the whole thing as a unit with the big red one. And it's just kind of again, a lot of moving parts. So characters are similar, and it's a great segue to what I can show next. This is a test animation of the Corgi. Specifically, that weird flat face thing on the right, that was a rig I put together to control his face. So that's what I actually animated. And then you see how it affects the character. This was an early in-process version of the Corgi. This is not him now. We've different rig, different setup, but there's a whole process to creating these characters. There's a whole lot of things we have to do to get there between something just an idea and then something that's a really finished product. So this is kind of an early test to kind of see what direction we're going, a little bit, how he's going to emote, what kind of emotions we can show from the characters. So that's that. And I can show you a few more things. So the rest is more kind of video gamey stuff. These are some of the actions that the character could do, assuming he was being controlled in some way by something.
There we go.
We're going to show. This is just a little idle breathing cycle like you might see in any game sort of thing. I'll go through a few of these guys here. We have here's Corgi walking around, always fun.
Nice.
I'm going to show his run as well.
Let's go.
Yeah. We got one last behavior. This is actually my personal favorite. So this is the jump.
That's so cool.
This one makes me so happy every time I see it.
Because his arms are also wailing when he's jumping up. It's whoa!
No, I'm really excited to take something like this and then have him fall 1,000 feet. But the biggest fun as an animator is just taking that character again to think well, so what if he did jump? What would happen? In this case, I don't think he's actually knows what to do when he lands. So once he gets up in the air, it's all freaking out till he's on the ground again. It's all like the other guys were saying. It's basically like storytelling. No matter what you're doing, you're storytelling. Whether it's designing, the airplane or the rooms or the environments or the characters themselves, it's always who are these guys? Why are these guys? Why are they doing what they're doing? What about what they look like defines how they move, et cetera, et cetera. And so you're always thinking about that stuff, and that's actually really the fun of creating this stuff in the first place. So. Yeah.
And then with this, because you're seeing it from a bunch of different angles, so why could you explain, why is it important to be able to see it, from the top looking down and from the side, why is it important to see that?
So if I were working on a feature film or something, it wouldn't matter, right? It only matters what the camera would see. But in 3D environments, in game type environments, where the camera could be free, you don't know what angle people are going to be looking at your character. So you need to make sure that it looks good from all the angles. So this is just an easy way when we go into review that I can show the character and everybody can see what it looks like from all the sides.
Nice. Nice. So then the process of going into this, how did you decide, okay, this is how he's going to jump? Do you really have to think about, well, what kind of person is this character? Not what kind of person, but like what kind of personality does this character have? Because obviously there's a million different ways he could have jumped, right?
Yeah, no, everything's performance. So there's a certain amount of like, you make some judgment calls and you try to figure out what the character would do. And then, kind of screw it up a bunch. Like I don't show the failures.
Right.
there's plenty of false starts. It's just trying to get to where, sometimes it's a bunch of thumbnails that lead to the performance. Sometimes it's just grinding away till you get there. So
how many different movements? Don't you have to make pretty much a movement for like everything? I mean, if we're, working on a game, right? It seems like there's going to be a lot of different movements.
There's a lot of different movements. It is very much figuring out what do we need to do and just creating that hierarchy of needs and going down from most important all the way down. Obviously that's the process and we're just working our way through. Some of the major movement stuff like walking and running is obviously like primary. And then we're going to get to more interesting, more granular motion. So.
Yeah. And then, so this is the Corgi character. Is it going to be the same for the panda and the kitty as well?
That is something we have to wait and see.
Okay. Okay. Not revealed yet.
No.
But I do like the Corgi. I feel like the Corgi is like the most popular one because we're always showing the Corgi. What about the panda and kitty? They don't ever get any love. Come on.
It's true. It's true. I tend to use the Corgi as my primary when I start working. I don't think there's any actual preference in the characters. Mm-hmm. They're all based on similar rigs and everything else, so we can actually work across characters really easily. But he's got those big ears, and since that's the most complex thing that any of them have aside from the body, I work with him first, and then if it works on him, it's going to work on everybody else after adjusting. Right.
True. I never thought about that. The ears. I guess the ears do have to move. So then a little insight into the like time of like how long does it take? I mean, I know it's always hard to answer this question because it's like, yeah, I know you're working on a million different things, but for context, just for people that are just curious, like for, the running, for example, it's like, how long did it take to figure that out from start to finish?
Well, I mean, a run is a run to a point. Like, as an animator, like I've done a lot of runs, right? There's kind of a menu that you go through. They need this pose and this pose and this pose and this pose, and then once you get the basics down, you start refining it into that character's version of it. Animation takes time. The old line is that animation is never done; it's just abandoned. But the run. I probably spent a couple days just making sure it's really clean. I haven't been spending weeks on any of these things yet. These are motions. We're depending on the complexity of the motion. They just need more time. Obviously, the jump was probably the most complex of that group that you've seen. With the idol being the simplest.
Nice. I can't wait to see it dance. If that's ever going to happen, we don't know. But I'm just saying,
anything's possible.
Anything is possible. And obviously there's a bunch of other Freddy, you lead the whole art team and there's a bunch of people on the art team, right? So our hope is to be able to get more people on. But yeah, it is crazy to think, everyone's working on their own separate things and it all somehow just comes together. And it is kind of crazy. I'm curious, Freddy, to hear from you, just like everyone in their own lanes, like how is everyone able to like understand the same, personalities, the same styles, like how do you make that happen?
So we do have, there's a little bit of a process as far as how we develop the art. So we do have dailies on a daily basis, right? In the morning, first thing in the morning, where we can all get aligned with what we're working. So we're looking at each other's work too. So we're not kind of working in an echo chamber. So Matt will give me notes, I will give him notes and so on with animation because it's fresh eyes. Sometimes you get really used to looking at the same thing over and over again. And then your brain starts thinking that like, yes, this is it. And then somebody with fresh eyes will come and be like, hey, this is something a little funny here. And you're like, oh yeah, I didn't notice that before. So that's very important, first of all. And then the second part is to do a lot of groundwork up front. So when it comes to talking about concepts and what we're doing, and then having some concept art made so that everybody in the team, not just the art team, but the company as a whole, can see in the direction that we're going to be going in. So that way everybody can buy into it. So that's where Wes, who's our concept artist and extremely talented, comes in. Hopefully you guys get a chance to talk to him soon. And then basically creates these visuals that kind of makes all this stuff that everybody's talking about and has in their heads, actually makes it real, it makes it physical, and then everybody can be in the same space. So that when I say purple, somebody might say violet, somebody might think fuchsia, somebody might think, different shades of purple. No, everybody's looking at the same color purple. So that's one, to be able to keep the vision as a whole together and what we're going and the direction that we're going. There's a lot of planning up front too, again, with the art team and the rest of the company as far as where we want to take the company. And based on that vision, then we go back and then we design the concept, the art, and start developing what we're going to do and showing it back to the company, to the rest of the team members, and getting feedback. And then we iterate on that too. It's never just one and done. It's hardly ever that way. We just keep iterating on and making it better until we get to the point where we all think that it's good enough for what we want to express with it.
Yeah, that makes sense. And yeah, to your point, for people who don't know, a little insight into the company, we do. We bring the whole entire team together every 2 weeks to see, like, this is what everyone's working on. This is all the progress that we've made. And it's like everyone stays in the loop. Everyone knows what every single department's doing, which is like really nice. So we really are all on the same page. And yeah, of course, you shouted out Wes. We of course want to bring Wes on. He's extremely talented as well. And yeah, excited. But yeah, I wanted to see, I know Matt was messing around with some stuff. Matt, do you have anything else you wanted to show? So you pulled some stuff up?
No, I'm just working.
Okay.
This is how it is. I'm updating the screen in the background. That's just me. This is
Okay, just making sure I didn't miss anything.
not taking anything away from Freddy. He's great. Yeah, it's amazing. Can't wait to see him on the show. It's good kind of wax his work. I continue to try to work. So.
I can't praise the whole team, not just the art team, but everybody enough in this company, because it's all basically all the bits and pieces that make the full image, the full product. Everything that we're trying to do in On-Chain Studios and with Cryptoys comes together because of all the moving pieces that we have. And then it's a matter of keeping all those moving pieces organized. So that's where also a shout out to Chris Litwa, who is our technical artist and basically grabs all our art and puts it together so that then the people that see it actually get to see it in a way that makes sense, because we're working in so many different individual parts. And then he manages to put the graphics in a way that they speak to you with all the effects and the glow and the lights and like all the shiny, and he's usually kind of like in the background, but he's a very important part to this piece too. And so are the engineers and everybody that basically, and even the freelancers, we do hire freelancers to do some work, and that absolutely everybody has their fingers on being a part of the full vision that makes this happen. So.
Yeah, and you mentioning freelancers, I want to quickly touch on, because I literally thought of something and I forgot to ask. But for all of you, for Matt, Harry, Freddy, do you all kind of have, and I'm pretty sure I've seen Matt, I'm pretty sure he has this, but like, do you gather a bunch of images together to try to, before you kind of put together some sort of art piece? Like, do you take inspirations and make sort of like a vision board of any type?
Wes does a really good job of that. Wes really looks into color and he puts a lot of thought into how he's going to craft a piece of art. I've been a freelancer for so long that I just try to cram through as quick as possible and give people as many options so the client can choose. Freddy does another good job of he has a couple Pinterest boards that he'll slap together and he's like, this is what you need to make something that falls along with this. And so it's a lot easier. I don't really have to do that. Although I will say that for some of the freelancers, I'll build something out to kind of give them guidance. But for the way I work, it's just how much work can I get done today, and how fast can I do it? I think it's Rembrandt who said an artist has to be both fast and good. So I've always tried to be fast and good as quick as I can, because Freddy will tell me when I'm wrong. So I just need to impress him more.
That's awesome. Yeah, you're right. It was Wes's board that I saw. All the Galaxy stuff. That was really cool. Yeah. Okay. So you sometimes put it together for freelancers, but not necessarily yourself, because you're trying to focus on getting as much out as possible. Different options.
Right. So I'll do a bunch of sketching. I'll have a lot of those. When I work from my backyard. This is my lovely garage. So when I get stuck, I'll just go and I play with my tomato plants or the watermelons, and I try to get them straight. And then I come back. I have that, step out of your head for a second, come back to it new. I have a lot of those moments. Maybe I shouldn't say that with my boss here, but I have those moments. And then
Freddy's like, you play with tomatoes?
Wait, no, any clarification? When you say you need to straighten them out, do you go go yell at them, or do you actually try and straighten them out?
That's actually my image is out there, just yelling at the tomatoes.
Right.
Oh yeah, no, that's 100% correct. That is 100% correct.
You're yelling at the tomatoes.
Just berate
In
the
a
tomatoes.
bathrobe and slippers, I'm locked in.
That's right. Curlers in my hair, just screaming at the tomatoes. And then I'll come back and I'll do, I'll sit down with my sketch pad and I'll do a bunch of sketches through this thing, or one of the other 300 sketch pads I have in the back. Go look at a lot of past work I've done. But again, Instagram is probably my biggest inspiration right now, because there's such a worth of art that's put on Instagram every day. And the artists I follow, and there's a couple artists I follow, and I'm like, I follow them just for their usage of color, others for the usage of line, and then some of them just for how creatively they approach. And then I've got, and I've taught a couple lessons on how to stay creative, how to be creative, how to, get your head outside of the box and come back in. Do a lot of what I call jelly bean drawings in the morning, which is I draw weird bean shapes and I put faces in them. It just helps to kind of, get the head ready for being creative in the day. But there's a bunch of stuff. If you want to bore yourself for a few hours, I'll be more than happy to walk you through.
I want to see some of those jelly beans.
Too bad.
You must have a million of those. You should do a contest. Count how many jelly beans are in the jar.
Yeah. I'll send you a couple links. I'll get my iPhone out and scan some pictures and send you some links so you can see jelly beans. But yeah.
Hey. That's awesome. Wow. I appreciate you sharing that with us, Matt. I'm curious to hear what Harry's process is. Are you drawing jelly beans and yelling at tomatoes too, or what?
No, I don't have time for that sort of thing. I will say there's a lot of YouTube in my life as far as looking for reference. The stuff I'm looking for is more going to be performance-based or just emotion. Sometimes you get inspiration from funny things, and sometimes it's just staring at, like, when you're doing a walk or a run or something you've done a million times, you want to get like kind of you loaded up bank of different ideas on how, you're standing outside, you're watching people walk around, and you're like, oh man, the way that guy kind of leans back when he walks, that's hilarious. I want to do that someday. Or, someone drags their arm in a funny way. Like those are the things that kind of stick with you, and that's where you get your research. I don't have tomatoes. I have kids and dogs. So
nice.
I make up for it by, I go out there and yell at them and straighten them out, hopefully. So that's my way.
All right.
I'm actually amazed that we've been able to go half an hour or whatever, and no one's barged in here and yelled at me. So that's amazing.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, that's great. It's always nice to hear people's different creative processes. Freddie, what do you got any cool secrets? Your creative process?
Oh, geez. It's I want to say secrets, but a comment that for the longest time I've gone through, where I go through, I'm going to make something, and then I'm super enthusiastic about it, and then I start creating crap, basically, that doesn't look like anything, and then I get frustrated, and then I go through like this frustration level and anger, and then I go away from it, and then I come back, and then something beautiful happens. So, and for the most part, when I talk to other artists, they're like, and I always thought it was just me. Other artists are always like, yeah, that's kind of like how it goes, So regardless of how talented artists are that I've met and known, everybody has that iteration process of trying to get to that beautiful image that everybody gets to see at the end, right? So it's a matter of working at it and keep iterating and practicing. So that's kind of my process as a whole with most of the stuff, but I do gather some reference. Matt mentioned Pinterest, and it's a double-edged sword. Because then I'm like, yes, I'm going to go find ideas in Pinterest. And then 4 hours later, I'm like, still on Pinterest, just going down the rabbit hole of ideas, you know? So it can be counterproductive. But for the most part, I have already, over the years, I've collected boards for different, whether it's characters, vehicles, landscapes, games, movies, posters. And then when something comes up that I need to do something related to that theme, then I have a board that has a bunch of reference already, and then I can very quickly get some inspiration and then start that other process that takes a little bit to get to the final.
Sweet. Well, I appreciate all of you sharing. Wow, I feel like this has been 40 minutes, but like it's flown by, and all this awesome stuff. Hopefully people enjoy. Definitely, if you're watching this YouTube, please leave a comment and let me know if you enjoy this, because we're trying to figure out if we should start doing more of these or not, you know, show some sneak peeks and kind of get into the brains of the artists, because you don't always get to hear from them. They're kind of behind the scenes. And I actually really appreciate this. I think it was nice. So Matt, Freddy, Harry, thank you so much for showing us your artwork. I appreciate it.
Well, thanks for having us.
Of course. And everyone who's watching, make sure you subscribe, and we will catch you in the next episode. Have a great day. Peace.